Hello, this is News Pulse on UATV. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for joining and welcome to the show. Today in the episode, series of Russian fails, missiles explode, air fire hits main drone factory, oil tankers struck by Ukrainian drones, Ukraine and the United States negotiating peace or rewarding aggression. European defense grows stronger as US scales back. So here's a plot twist for you. A Russian missile, one of the big ones actually, goes full on drama queen mode and just blows itself up mid-flight. Exactly that just happened in Yasny, a small town in Russia's Orenburg region. UR-100N ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, possibly carrying one of Russia's hypersonic avant-garde warheads, have decided no more Mr. Nice Guy. According to Militarny, which took a deep dive into the footage, the missile was totally lost in mid-air, and instead of reaching its target, it did the complete opposite, just exploded. The whole thing went down right near Yasny's missile base, which, fun fact, is where Russia keeps some of its most powerful weapons, including nuclear-capable ones. The massive orange cloud that followed suggests the missile was liquid-fueled using nitrogen-containing compounds and obviously generously sharing them with the entire region. In a jaw-dropping display of military strategy, Russian frigate Admiral Asen launched Kalibr missiles from the dock in Novorossiysk, and it also didn't go quite well. At least one missile exploded mid-air, with debris falling onto the city's coastline. The Supernova Plus monitoring channel published video footage of the launches showing the missiles being fired almost from the dock. The video authors noted that the ship, most likely was the Admiral Asen frigate, didn't even leave the port, and the launches took place right within the harbour. The report emphasized after launches, the frigate quickly returned to base under the cover of port structures and its own air defense. The video shows one of the missiles detonating shortly after launch, creating a bright flash in the air. People off camera commented in surprise as the debris falls near the port. Houston, we have a problem, and the problem is Russia and in Russia. The situation is critical, and Russia is effectively deprived of its ability to conduct manned missions for the first time in over 60 years. This is what experts say on the failed launch of the Soyuz MS-28 spacecraft at the Baikonur Cosmodrome on November 27th. The damaged launch pad number 31 at Baikonur is essentially the only one from which Russia can send people into space. During a post-launch inspection, it was discovered that the gas stream from the first stage engine of the rocket has detached the fragment of the launch complex. A major fire broke out at the battery storage facility within Russia's Alabug special economic zone in Tatarstan, where Shahed drones are manufactured. Initially, the fire was said to have covered 1,000 square meters, but the affected area quickly expanded. Alabug later confirmed the fire, stating that it occurred in the battery storage warehouse, but assured that there were no reported injuries or fatalities. The Alabug Special Economic Zone is a significant hub for the production of Shahed drones, including the Shahed 136, which are used by Russian forces in the ongoing war against Ukraine. According to reports, Alabug produces over 5,700 Shahed drones between January and September 2024, marking a dramatic increase in production compared to the same period of the previous year. The drones are produced with technology transferred from Iran in 2022 and are marketed by Russia under the name Giran 2. Russia also plans to recruit around 12,000 North Korean workers to support operations at that Alabug zone. Ukrainian sea drones have struck two oil tankers, Kairos and Virat, near Turkey's coastline. Both vessels are included in UK and EU sanctions lists for the role in transporting Russian oil, obviously, in violation of international sanctions imposed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The first strike occurred on Friday, with Virat reportedly hit again on Saturday. A Ukrainian security service says to the BBC that the tankers were empty and heading to Russia's Novorossiysk oil terminal at the time of the strikes. The The source added the SSU continues to take active steps to cut off Russia's financial capacity to wage war. Sea baby drones disabled ships that could have transported nearly 70 million worth of oil, helping Russia to bypass sanctions. Russian media quickly spun these strikes as terrorist attacks by the Ukrainian regime on peaceful Russian vessels. They portray these attacks as targeting civilian infrastructure. The focus is always on retaliation rather than addressing why such strikes occur in the first place, whether it's attacks on energy facilities, gas stations, post offices, or even furniture factories. Russia consistently frames its own aggressions as defensive. The result, the death of Ukrainian civilians, just continue. What would you say of a second army of the world that would have said aloud, using the big mouthpiece of its commander-in-chief, that in a month they are going to seize a small city in a country whose territory they have invaded already? It's just a city of just 35 square kilometers. Then this army commander would have shifted the deadlines consistently 3 times and still wouldn't seize the city completely in a year, let alone that said month. Yes, I'm talking about Russian army, and yes, I'm talking about Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. Some time ago, Vladimir Putin personally took part in a high-profile information and psychological operation when he addressed both foreign and Ukrainian journalists, claiming that they could come to Pokrovsk themselves and see that the city is completely pocketed and that 10,000 Ukrainian troops are surrounded there. The statement was likely intended to trigger Trump's reaction, as Putin had previously used similar claims about yet another 10,000 Ukrainian troops also allegedly surrounded, but this time in Kursk region, which back in the time indeed triggered Trump's reaction, as he tossed this information whole thing further in many interviews, saying that he, Trump, had personally asked Putin to release Ukrainians, while later it just turned out that there were no Ukrainian troops surrounded and the whole thing was just a psyop by Putin. And Donald Trump was then looking awkward by being dragged by the nose. So then, after when it came to yet another 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers allegedly trapped, Trump did not react in any way to Putin's psychological operation at all. There were, of course, no journalists in Pokrovsk and no evidence whatsoever that Putin did not lie again. So the operation failed to have the Kremlin's desired impact. But why not to try again, right? And now Russia is once again setting deadlines for the capture of a city of Pokrovsk with just 7,000 residents, by the way. And that is before the war broke into it. Another fourth deadline of Russians with a goal to seize Pokrovsk is set to December 15, 2025, and Kupiansk by the end of the year. In terms of American peace negotiations with Ukraine, absurd as it is, the US is doing its best to pressure Ukraine towards such an agreement that would reward Russia by giving it that part of the Donbas region that it could not take over in 4 years. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy for Russia, will meet Putin again soon to discuss details. But what details exactly? Well, maybe Witkoff will open a map of Ukraine and ask Putin to just finger point those parts of our country that would be a menu in a restaurant for Putin. Maybe not, and our voice, the voice of Ukraine, will be heard. A ceasefire, an actual de facto frontline frozen? Maybe. To reward an aggressor for that he killed hundreds of thousands of our fellow Ukrainians with more land as a reward, completely unacceptable. In terms of these negotiations between Ukraine and the US, there is a nice meme floating around in Ukraine, originated by a channel Actual. The meme reads, "American has spent last year desperately trying to surrender in a war it isn't even fighting." And yesterday, December 1st, Steve Witkoff, special representative of Donald Trump, arrives in Moscow for a meeting with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. It remains unclear whether Jared Kushner will also travel to the Kremlin, but the day before, Trump suggested that his son-in-law might join the trip. On November 26, Trump had stated that the Moscow visit would take place the following week, but did not specify an exact date at that time. NATO held large-scale military exercises in Romania's Transylvania region, showcasing Europe's ability to defend itself with minimal US involvement. This comes as the US reduces its military presence in Europe, with troop levels in Romania cut from 1,700 to 1,000 and planned withdrawals from Bulgaria, Slovakia and Hungary. Expert Julia Georgia noted that from the first time in 70 years, Europeans no longer view US security guarantees as reliable. The situation has been further complicated by growing ties between Washington and Moscow, with the White House threatening to cut military support for Kiev. This has prompted Europe to prepare for self-defense along its eastern border. German Foreign Minister warned that Russia could launch an attack on NATO member within 4 years. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas added that Russia is trying to spread fear amongst Europeans through rhetoric and showy military actions. Ukraine and Norway have launched a joint initiative for the production of Ukrainian drones. The agreement was signed by Ukrainian Minister of Defense Denis Shmyhal and his Norwegian counterpart Tore Sandvik. The next phase will involve the launch of a pilot production line in 2026 with parallel efforts to expand production capabilities. Ukraine will share its developments and innovations with Norway, and in return, Norway will provide a powerful production platform to supply Ukraine's military with advanced drones. Additionally, the cooperation will involve the development of research and design projects in collaboration with leading Norwegian institutions. Well, that seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for your attention and for being such a staunch supporter of Ukraine. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel so to stay tuned to what is happening in the world, presented to you by us, UATV, in always Ukrainian perspective. Thank you and goodbye. See you soon.